Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Sports often offers us a sanctuary from real life, from events that we don't want to hear about, from tragedy and misery. But this week, Boston Marathon, one of the premier sporting events in the world, not just this area, turned tragic as 2 bombs exploded. Over 180 people were injured, some seriously, and 3 people lost their lives, including an 8-year-old, a 29-year-old from Medford, and a Chinese national studying at Boston University. No matter what your grievance in the world is, it's hard to understand that.
Yeah, a 23-year-old girl too from China, the one you were just talking about. She went to BU because she said, I love the spring in Massachusetts. She was here when she was younger, and she said, I love the springtime. It was a nice day. She goes down to the marathon, and that's what happens. I mean, we all know there are sick people in this world, really sick people, but to do something like that, and today they showed the pictures of the 2 people they think did it, and 2 young guys. They look like they're American, but who knows? And that's their thrill, to disrupt everybody's life during the marathon. It's a real disgrace, but you know what's going on in the world, Ron. There's just people that just don't care.
Right. There's so much anger, and I can't imagine anyone's cause being so serious that they feel that they have to injure or murder innocent people along the way. And we can only hope that they apprehend the criminals who did this and bring them to justice. It's sad that, however, you do see a lot of people with a vigilante spirit. That's not the answer, to go out and beat them to death or something. Then you just turn yourself down to their level.
And you saw where one of them placed a bomb. He placed a bomb right in front of 4 children. 4 children were standing there where he placed the bomb. They showed it today. It's just unbelievable. It really is. They're just totally sick people who just don't care.
On a brighter note, the sports community seems to have really stepped up. Last night at the Bruins game, Renee Rancourt, who normally sings the Star-Spangled Banner, introduced it, and then it was taken up by the crowd of 17,000 plus.
Yeah, that was quite a scene. It was unbelievable. A couple of people I know from work that were there said it was unbelievable. Half the people were crying during it. But there were a lot of heroes, too. That person with the cowboy hat who lost his son in Iraq, and another son who killed himself because of that, because of losing his brother.
Right, Arredondo.
Yeah. There were a ton of people, like Andruzzi. You're hearing more and more stories about people just going in and trying to help them and saving a lot of lives, Ron. Well, you know better than anyone. Just the bleeding, and just to stop the bleeding.
Right. Well, obviously the type of injuries seen during the marathon attack are not the type of injuries that people encounter day to day in hospitals. Fortunately, the fine institutions that we have in Boston, they have a lot of great trauma surgeons, some of whom had been through the military and seen war casualties and mass casualties, and were able to respond and hopefully keep the loss of life and loss of limbs to the smallest amount possible.
Yeah, and I was listening to Dennis and Callahan, and Callahan's best friend's nephew was the one who was carried out, who lost a leg. But they really believe, Callahan's best friend believes that the individual that helped his son saved his life because he held his artery, and he ended up losing a leg. But you hear, tons of stories like that.
Right, and obviously most of the players on the Bruins are not U.S. citizens. I don't know really how many American citizens, if any, there are on the Bruins. And other teams are stepping up as well. Several players on the Patriots, Danny Amendola, pledged to donate $100 for every pass he caught this year, and maybe it was $200 for every touchdown.
Every one he dropped.
Oh, $200 for every drop.
He dropped 3 last year and caught 60-some, but he missed 4 games.
Okay. And then Devin McCourty agreed to donate $100 for every tackle and $200 for every interception. And apparently Matthew Slater, who's one of the more articulate spokespeople on the team addressed the team the other day and, and encouraged them to really understand how fortunate they are as professional athletes to live the privileged life they lead and to contribute to the community however they can in response to this. I think the Kraft Foundation agreed to contribute $100,000 as well.
Yeah, they already have over $7 million in donations in one fund. I don't know which fund it is, but $7 million to go to the to the families of the injured and the 3 families who lost a child. And and how about the father who not only lost his son, but his daughter lost a leg, and his wife's...
His wife had a traumatic head injury.
I heard it was real bad, but then I heard it was more of an eye injury, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's all.
Right. So, but, total devastation. But again, I think it is terrific that the way the sports teams have stepped up. One of the themes has been Boston Strong. The Red Sox had a jersey hung up in the dugout with 617, the number, and then Boston Strong, and people were calling up and saying, well, what does the 617 stand for? And, obviously for people who don't know, that was the area code for Boston.
Right.
And a lot of the players seem genuinely touched because it's so close to where the ballpark is, and they've all been there.
Well, they know how big it is that day. It's a huge day, and the biggest day in Massachusetts, basically.
Right, we all know.
It's a celebration.
Everyone in Boston knows people who've run the marathon or have family members who are training for marathons. One of my daughters, Paula, ran a marathon down at Disney World. They're both, Karen and Paula, are training for another marathon. And my roommate in college ran the Boston Marathon twice. So, but that's not unique to me. It's just everybody. I mean, there's so many people who are fitness conscious and train very hard to make this a very special day, oftentimes to raise money for some other cause too.
And I know most of the people in the country, they didn't even, I don't think they realized what Patriots Day was all about. State holiday, celebration in Massachusetts. And a lot of people learned in the past few days what Patriots Day is all about in Massachusetts. And I thought the president was excellent today in his speech.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
I heard it, in work, and he was tremendous. And the governor was and the mayor was also, Mayor Menino was also, he was very good. But the president was excellent.
Yeah, I think all along the community has responded and stepped up, extremely well with great sensitivity and rational thought, trying to make sure that they're there for the people who really need it.
Right.
I was really impressed by what Doc Rivers had to say. Many of the players live not too far because they played in downtown Boston. Doc Rivers says he lives 3 blocks away, and he had been there. And he says he's been here for 9 years, and he'll always be a part of the community. He didn't say that he knows he'll never be fired. He said that could happen someday too. But everyone who plays sports in Boston, whether you're successful or not, recognizes the passion and knowledgeable fans that really care. I mean, you see players, I'll give you an example, A.J. Burnett. He went to New York. He couldn't cope at all with the pressure there. Now he's in Pittsburgh. He's pitching well. You go somewhere and nobody even knows you're there.
He's leading the league in strikeouts this year, too.
Right. So, and in the Major League Baseball, in the National League, Adrian Gonzalez leading the National League in hitting. Carl Crawford's 3rd. What's the only difference? Is it warm weather? I don't think so. I think some players are just able to function better in a different environment.
Yeah. And another thing, too, is most of the people there, it's basically just about the whole marathon now, is except for the pros. It's all about fundraising, and it's a shame most of the people were there for that. And then, you had Andruzzi was there with his team. They showed him carrying
Teddy Bruschi.
Bruschi was in a hotel. He saw both of them go off to the left and to the right of him.
And it detracts not only, detracts from the sport too. The people who won, who trained so hard and are great competitors, nobody's going to remember them. They're going to remember the 2013 marathon for the tragedy, not for the great athletes who worked so hard and prepared and sacrificed to be successful.
Yeah. And the 20-year-old Neil won that race, right? I think he just started running marathons last year.
Well,
he's been unbelievable, but no one knows who he, I mean, no one's talking about him right now.
right. Just want to say a word about changing pace. Tommy John surgery, of all things. Now, Tommy John was a left-handed pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, and I think he played for the Yankees for a while, who late in his career had damage to what's known as the ulnar collateral ligament or medial collateral ligament in his throwing arm. And the act of pitching puts tremendous stress on your shoulder and elbow, but especially on your elbow. So Dr. Frank Jobe in Los Angeles developed a surgery to take a tendon graft from elsewhere in the body and to use that to replace the damaged elbow ligament, which has been a remarkable surgery. At the time of the surgery in 1974, it was thought that Tommy John had a 1 in 100 chance of coming back and being a successful pitcher. Now, the success rates are anywhere from 85 to 92%. And what they do is they graft a tendon either from your other arm or more commonly the leg. They make a small hole in, or small holes in the ulna, which is a bone in the forearm, and the humerus, the bone in the upper arm. And then they loop that through in a figure-8 way and then suture the tendon to itself. And you see pitchers who come back, you know, obviously like John Lackey, not quite so successfully yet, but Junichi Tozawa has come back as a new pitcher, throwing with a lot more velocity. Steven Strasburg's pitching great for Washington. And the people say, well, how can you throw harder after they do surgery and repair damage to your arm? And the theories are that first, the pitchers are much more attentive to the conditioning and development of the arm muscles afterwards. And second, that your velocity may have been higher and then gradually starts to erode as you get damage to the tendon. But like many other advances in sports surgery, you know, Avery Bradley having 2 shoulder operations, many players having anterior cruciate ligament or ACL surgery. It's just remarkable that you see players who come back and compete at a high level.
Well, doesn't it loosen that area up more where you can really be quicker with your delivery? I mean, that's what I heard. It stretches the ligament, right?
Well, I think it's more, it just provides the stability on the inside part of the arm. But it's just remarkable that you see pitchers come back just as, not just as good, but better. Tozawa is, you know, Tozawa is a lights-out relief pitcher now.
A lot of them come back stronger. I mean, just, you know, Tommy John, when he came pitch for the Yankees, he had the surgery before he went to the Yankees. He had a number of great years for them.
Now, the other issue that has come up is early on, almost all the surgery was in older patients. And by 2005, 33% of the surgery occurred in children 18 or younger. And the issue, which is not exactly clear, is how many injured their arms at young ages pitching in Little League or Pony League, whatever, versus whether some surgeons were doing it preventively or to try to, at the request of parents, enhance their child's velocity, which, I was kind of dumbfounded when I heard.
That's amazing.
Who would send their child for an operation thinking that they could make them better so they could play professional sports when they didn't have anything wrong with them in the first place?
I remember when I was younger playing in high school baseball. I was playing shortstop, and we were playing a lot of games, and I was doing a lot of throwing. And I hurt my elbow, but it was towards the end of the season. I think we had one game left when I hurt it. By the next year, it was fine. But I mean, I didn't hurt as bad as these guys. And plus, I wasn't pitching that much.
Well, I had hurt mine playing adult baseball, and I certainly wasn't going to have surgery because I was almost 40 years old. But I wrote to Dr. James Andrews in Alabama, and I was surprised a few weeks later to get a 2.5-page letter, single-space, typed from Dr. Andrews. I should have held on to it as a memento. But he talked about pitching mechanics, and he said if you ever have any patients that need surgery, more than happy to evaluate the pitchers as well as their delivery.
Yeah, if you have a fluid delivery, you're not going to get the injury, basically. Again, when we played, you knew how to throw the ball where you weren't going to hurt your arm. I mean, at shortstop, when you try to snap the quick throw, you're using a lot of elbow. But if you're pitching with the right form and you're coming over the top with your shoulder and you have that smooth delivery, you're hardly using your elbow.
Well, it's
unless you're snapping off a curve.
Always been said that pitchers who are throwing across their body are at increased risk. And when you think about those guys, I think of somebody like Brett Saberhagen. Doesn't mean he got that, but that was an at-risk delivery. And I think Buchholz kind of has a.
I said that about Buchholz a few years ago. I said he's going to hurt him. The way he's throwing it, I mean, every pitch he throws, he's throwing it as hard as he can, and the way he's coming across. Yeah, I said I thought he'd throw out his shoulder and his back, but it's been more. He had elbow problems too, but you got to watch. And then when you're snapping off those curveballs, you're using your elbow a lot.
Right. The pitch that has the biggest risk apparently is the slider. For people who don't know what baseball pitches are, a slider is supposed to look like a fastball and then goes down and away late in the pitch. And instead of like a curveball where you come over the top and throw it like this, you snap down and put pressure on your fingers in such a way that to the hitter the ball looks like a red dot, and that's how they can identify what type of pitch it is, and then they know it's going to go down and away. It looks a little different than the cut fastball a guy like Mariano Rivera uses it to a great extent, but the slider is the really tough pitch, and it's a great pitch for a lot of pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, that the split finger is the one where you don't hurt yourself. Basically, you're throwing it almost like a fastball, but you're splitting your two fingers and it's coming off soft, a little softer, almost as fast, and it dies at the end. Anyone who can throw a split finger, I mean, number one, you're not putting wear and tear on your elbow, and number two, it's almost impossible to hit.
I can't remember who started out first throwing this. Maybe it was Bruce Sutter.
The split finger?
Right.
You know who started throwing that? My cousin. When I was about 8 years old, he was playing, and he showed me how to throw it. So they were throwing it before, but they didn't call it the split finger.
Yeah, way back when
the sinker.
Yeah, they called it a fork
ball or a sinker.
But I remember hearing a pitcher on TV once saying, "Gee, I wonder what it would be like if you had your middle finger amputated and you could just."
No, but I was like 8 years old the first time I saw it. He was pitching Legion. He was pitching the state final game up in New Hampshire. He lived in Connecticut. So I went to watch him pitch. I'm saying to my father, what is he throwing? I'm 8 years old. I never saw it. You could see the ball coming off, and it was basically, he called it a sinker, but it was a split. It was a split finger.
If you have a great split, it's a wonderful pitch. And on the Red Sox, I think the pitcher with the best split is Uehara.
Well, when Papelbon used to throw it good, sometimes he'd hang it, but when he threw it good, it was impossible to hit.
Right. Well, we'll be right back.
At Athletic Evolution, it starts with a purpose and ends with your success. Visit our website or drop into our training facility at 78B Olympia Avenue, Woburn, Mass. Athletic Evolution, giving you the edge.
Welcome back. Well, who would have thought that after a few weeks into the baseball season, Red Sox would be 10-4 and leading the American League, looking for their 6th consecutive victory tonight at Cleveland. Sox have surprised me big time. Obviously, their pitching has been the answer because there's nobody who's really been spectacular offensively.
No, it comes down to, like we said, the Giants. Look at the Giants 2 out of the last 3 years. Very good pitching, starting pitching, very good bullpen, timely hitting. It's exactly what the Red Sox are doing. I mean, they have enough hitting if they're going to get the pitching they're getting right now the rest of the year. That bullpen is solid, though. And I think they're going to be, well, we said it early in the year, anybody can win it in this division, and anybody can come in last place. And right now, the two teams that we thought would be in the middle of the pack right now, although I told you Toronto's overrated again. And every year, forget Toronto. Toronto's not going to win anything. Baltimore doesn't look that sharp. Tampa Bay doesn't have the hitting. Well, so it could be the Red Sox and Yankees again.
Well, Bautista has been out of the lineup for Toronto. I'm not sure if it was a shoulder problem or whatever, and he's an important part of their lineup. The guy who looks like he's gone way back to me, and maybe it's just a small sample size, is Longoria. I thought the guy was going to be a 40 home run, 120 RBI guy every year, and it just looks like they can pitch to him now.
Right, his average has gone down. He still has some power, but he hasn't hit with the power yet. But he'll get going. They'll go on their streak, which they normally go on during the year, but they're just not strong enough. And they lost Shields, which is a big loss. You know, they want either number 1 or 2 starter, him or Price. And, you know, you lose him, and then you're going to rely on these younger pitchers who are good pitchers. But, you know, they lose him, they don't have enough hitting, and they have a terrible bullpen as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think the Red Sox are still going to struggle against left-handed pitching.
But if they get the pitching they're getting...
Through 14 games, I don't think a starting pitcher has given up more than 3 runs, which is ridiculous. The overall team ERA is 2.66. The strikeout to walk ratio, which normally 2 or over is good, is almost 3. It's at 2.94, with the best predictor of future ERA is strikeout to walk. And it makes sense. If you get a lot of strikeouts, you're keeping the ball from being in play, and if you don't walk many guys, you're not giving people free bases that can be driven around. And the bullpen is really interesting. Now, Hanrahan turned out so far to be a disaster because he can't throw strikes. Supposedly he's hurt. I'd say there's a 99.9% chance that Bailey's taken his job.
Well, Bailey was throwing fastballs 95 miles an hour last week. Last year he couldn't get over 90.
I know. So
his arm is back.
He was hurt. He's back.
And he has a real good history. So you may see him as the closer. And with those guys setting him up.
Right. You've got Mortensen with his herky-jerky, weird delivery and splitter that he's got that's a pretty good pitch. Tazawa now throws 95, 96, and he's got a good split. My favorite pitcher in the bullpen is Uehara because when he gets people out, he runs back to the dugout like he just won the World Series.
Then if he gives up a hit, like one game a couple of weeks ago, he gave up a hit. It was like the worst thing in the world that happened. A run scored. He came in with a guy in second. He wasn't too happy about that. But, hey, they're a fun team to watch now.
I think it's great that they look like they're having fun. They're not totally miserable. And it's not like they turned over the roster, but they don't have overall as much talent as they had before. But they're more effective.
Yeah, and I'm happy with the Yankees the way they're playing. You know, they started off really slow, 1-4.
Yeah, the Yankees are 8-5. They're winning. There's bad news for the Yankees in that Derek Jeter is not going to be back till after the All-Star break because he has a hairline fracture in his ankle, and they're going to shut him down. So, you know, and you know Jeter, I'm sure that he's been working hard to get better because that's the type of player he is.
You know, they're not going to be hurting big time. I mean, if they get Teixeira back and Granderson back, you know, they have enough. You know, Nunez and Nix can fill in there. They're pretty good ball players. And, you know, I like both of them. They both can run. And, you know, they have Gardner back to lead off. He'll be the leadoff hitter.
Yeah, well, the Yankees
quick on the bases.
The Red Sox have scored 69 runs in 14 games, so a little bit less than 5 runs a game. The Yankees have scored 68 runs in 13 games, so they're a little bit more than 5. So in the end, as you said, it's all about pitching. It's when you can get consistent performances like you have from Lester and Buchholz, you know, 7 innings plus, that you're not taxing the bullpen. Especially if you have a lead, then you put in Mortensen or somebody like that, so you're not, you know, running Uehara, Tazawa, and Bailey out there every day. Hanrahan goes on the DL. You know, I guess that gives a shot to guys like Stephen Wright, the knuckleballer, and Alex Wilson, the kid up from Pawtucket.
I like them both. But, you know, you go back to the Yankees, too. Look at Rivera. He's 4 for 4 in save opportunities. It's unbelievable, isn't he?
He's a terrific player.
And they have Robinson setting him up, getting him into the ninth inning. So, I mean, the Yankees, they're getting good starting pitcher. Pineda's supposed to be back in May.
Well, what's remarkable for the Red Sox is the catchers haven't really hit the ball. Ross had a key home run one game to help them win, but and Ross, I like Ross a lot. He seems to be really steady, professional, and really handle pitchers, throw the ball well. Napoli's come on. He's got 16 RBIs, I think.
I like him a lot.
Pedroia is hitting for average, no power at all.
He swings at too many high pitches.
The shortstop, Drew, is a disaster.
Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. They give him $9 million. They didn't have to sign him. What are they thinking about?
He looks like he's a very capable defensive shortstop, but he hasn't shown any sign whatsoever that he can hit. Now, again, he hasn't been. There's a small sample size, but his career's been going downhill steadily, and just a bad move. Middlebrooks is hitting sub 200. He had the 3 home run game.
He'll hit though.
Bradley will be going back to AAA any day now when Ortiz comes up, and Nava I like this Nava because he's a guy who came up from the Industrial League after not making his college team. The one guy you can be sure is not complaining day to day is going to be Nava.
Well, the one thing you'll definitely know if Ortiz hits, he's on the juice. If he doesn't hit, he's off the juice. It's that simple with him.
Ellsbury looks like he's going to be a guy who right now is on base percentage is below 300. His OPS is around 740, and for a guy who's probably going to cash in on huge money, I think whoever gets him is going to be way overpaying.
$18 million next year, anyway.
Yeah, well, he's got one home run, and he looks good. He's a pretty boy. Nice to be that. Nice to be making $10 million and
he'll start hitting though, Ron. He'll get up near 300.
I'm not sure he's that good.
No, he'll get up to around 300.
And Victorino is another guy who I think he's going to have a good on-base percentage, have no power, although he's really excellent outfielder.
Well, they paid double the money they should have, but they wanted him,
right.
So they knew if they didn't pay double, they wouldn't get him. But they're giving him 14 or 13 or 14? 13 million. He should have gotten 5 to 6 maybe the most. I don't think any other team would have given him 10. And the Red Sox are giving him 13. That's like what they did with J.D. Drew that time when they gave him 14 million.
It's just the way professional teams throw around money. It's incredible. And
what's wrong with Henry, though? How does he let these general managers throw out this money for these type of players?
I don't know.
Is he in a fog?
Sometimes professional teams do things for publicity reasons. And however, all that being said, they are scoring runs somehow. And like you said, it's been timely hitting more than a lot of hitting. And what counts at the end of the day, to me, I rank the teams by ERA and on runs scored. It doesn't matter if your on-base percentage is lousy, your slugging percentage is lousy, but you're scoring runs. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, they have the perfect setup, though, Ron. We said it earlier. They have the starting pitching. Lester and Buckholz are good as any team's 1 and 2 pitcher. They've got 3 other pitchers who are good pitchers. They're going to keep them in ball games. You get to the bullpen, they're going to be solid. Then you get the timely hitting. But these players love playing with each other. After last year's disaster, this is like paradise for them. They got a manager they like. They got players they like to be around.
Well, and you can tell just watching the games, the players look like they're having fun, even when they're not in the game. Like Gomes, when he's DHing, he hasn't been out. I don't think he's been out in the field yet. He looks like he just enjoys going to a baseball game.
The one player I would get rid of, I think, and I don't know that much about him, Lackey, but I know he was in with the the Beckett thing and the situation and all that. And Beckett was real influence on Lester, because I told you a couple of years ago I didn't like Lester was complaining about pitches that were outside that he wanted. He was starting to moan and groan. He never did that before. Now that Beckett's gone, you wonder how Lackey is. Maybe Lackey will. Everybody says he's a good guy, but he gets mad at his teammates when they make an error. You show that disgust. It's not fun playing behind a guy like him.
I think they've only made 2 errors this season, which is.
But you remember him in the
shocking.
past. He'd stare at the player, shake his head.
Well, it never helps when you're not happy about a call. Not that we would ever complain to officials about anything. That officials and umpires are people, and if you give them a hard time, they'll give it right back to you. And it always has been that way. It always will be that way.
But I told you last show, I've been saying it for years, the biggest problem in baseball is the outside corner for umpires. I saw a game the other day, it was the same problem, situation. Umpire calls a strike, pitch that was 3 inches outside, batter's ripped, upset, he didn't get thrown out of the game, close. And the umpire's guessing.
Well, when you show that, I agree with you, having watched this a lot, especially since you called it to my attention, that if it's on the outside corner, it's pretty much, it's always going to be a strike. They'll never miss that. Other parts, up and down, the top and the bottom of the strike zone seem very unreliable.
But the thing is, the letters in the knees, it's not a guess. You're seeing the ball. So if you're making a bad call, it's your fault.
Right. They teach the umpires that line your eyes up with the top of the strike zone. If it's even or below, it's a strike.
Right.
Then, so that.
In the inside corner. So you have
right.
You have the letters covered, you have the inside corner covered, and you basically have the knees covered because you can go down with the pitch. And when I did fast pitch softball, I mean, that's how I used to do it. I had everything covered. But the outside corner, it could be a real good guess for these umpires, but no one can say that's definitely a strike or a ball when it's around that corner because every time they're guessing, a lot of them they have, through good experience, pretty much are right, but a lot of times.
It's not too different when you're a hitter. You always have a pretty good idea of whether, if it's on the inside corner, whether it's a strike or not.
Well,
but the outside corner, you see those left-handed, if you're a right-handed batter and it's a left-handed pitcher and it's tailing away on the outside corner, those are the pitches I hated the most.
That's right. And I remember striking out one time playing ball and a pitch in the outside corner. I must have fouled off like 6 pitches, and the pitch was definitely like 3 inches outside, and the umpire called the strike. And you just look at him and say, you know what a batter knows better than the umpire if that pitch is a strike or not, because through the experience of, where they're standing and where the pitch is ending up, if it's on the corner or it just misses. Umpires, they have to guess. The good umpires, the real good umpires, not as much, but every one of them have been wrong in that outside corner in every game they ump.
Well, there's some talk that David Ortiz will be back Friday with the Red Sox. I don't know.
They'd be better off without him.
Well, my suspicion is that this heel problem is going to bother him all year long.
But why would they give him the money knowing he had that problem?
Well, we just said it's public relations.
But you know what I think, Ron? And you keep changing the subject every time I bring it up because you don't want to talk about it. But he's got to be. They must be thinking, okay, if he gets away with steroids or whatever he's taking for 2 more years, he's going to be productive, and he's disguising it. Whatever he's doing, whoever he has giving him the juice, he's disguising it big time where they can't catch him, and they say they're doing that now. They're that far advanced where they can do it. So their thinking is, all right, he's older now. He could be close to 40, whatever he is. He's older, but they don't know his actual age. You know that when he wasn't on it, he couldn't turn around on an inside fastball. He was missing him. He was missing him by a foot.
Well, of the great.
And now all of a sudden he can hit him.
Of the great sluggers of the '90s, 2000 era, we know Bonds, Souza, McGuire,
Ramirez and Ortiz.
Palmeiro. They were Rod. They were all
and Clemens.
All doing it. Now the question is, of the great players, we use the word great loosely. How many people were not? Now,
I don't know.
We don't know.
I would nenever bet any money that this one wasn't.
I want to
Garcia power. I'd bet yes.
I would bet yes.
We got all that power all of a sudden when he was playing.
And there were Red Sox players who got really big really fast. Again, that doesn't mean that it wasn't because they were spending their whole day and night in the weight room. But Trot Nixon got really big really fast. John Valentin had one big year that got him a lot of money. Again, we're not saying that he took performance-enhancing drugs. We don't know.
You know who I blame more than the players? I don't blame the players.
The owners.
The owners. They know they're doing it, and they know they're getting fans to come in. They're making big-time money with McGuire and Sosa.
Well, I want to believe that Jeter never did it. I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And then the other guy I really want to believe never took anything was Ken Griffey Jr. I don't know.
He got bigger, too, though.
Yeah. Well, he was hurt so much during his career. despite the fact that he put up big numbers, he missed huge chunks of time.
They're saying Robinson Cano's been on it. You look how much bigger he got.
Really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Oh.
Robinson Cano, they've come out a few times with that. They were ready to come out with it, I heard, before the season started. He's on that list. Look how much bigger he is. He grew just like Sosa did.
Well,
For a second, remember he was a skinny second baseman who can run? Now he's a heavy second baseman who hits for power.
I would be more than happy to see the people on the list. What I'd really like to Major League Baseball to have done is to have people get amnesty for acknowledging that they took something. But you have to admit it. If you admit it, we'll give you no penalty.
Why admit it, though?
Well, of course. Why you know?
Why admit it if you haven't been caught?
Right. You almost go on the assumption that if a guy's been successful, he had to cheat.
Yeah.
Whereas in some sports, like basketball and the NFL, I got to believe everybody's taking something.
Oh, yeah, look at Mike Ruth from BC that year. He went
Well,
up 60 pounds.
who
Lost
knows?
60 pounds when he went off it.
Who knows? But trusting as we are, we trust you'll be right back.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court.
Hello, my name is Anthony Taylor, founder of Visionary Basketball Group, VBG. It's a year-round basketball player development organization ranging from preschool to college and professional level, girls and boys. We cater to all skill levels, starting from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. One of the biggest things that we have is our coaching staff, who do a phenomenal job at mentoring the players on a regular basis with the training, the teaching, and the knowledge. We operate 7 days a week. We offer over 30 sessions, and we're considered one of the top comprehensive basketball player development organizations in New England. And another key aspect that we do is that we have kids coming from all different areas, urban, suburban communities, uniting as one. And that's what makes VBG a phenomenal organization that helps kids gain confidence, leadership, discipline, self-esteem. And if you have a chance, come down and see what we do at Visionary Basketball Group.
VBG player athletes are rising stars in elementary, middle school, high school, and college basketball. We apply the same approach to training with every participant at VBG and produce players who are prepared for maximum performance. Visionary Basketball not only provides programs for individuals, we can also come to your town, school, or any institution to customize a structured program for your team or basketball organization. For more information, please log on to our website, www.visionarybasketball.com, or drop into our Athletic Performance Center at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
Welcome back. The end of the NBA season is almost upon us. I think it was 1974, I'm not entirely sure, when the Celtics barely squeaked out a record over 500, kind of played rope-a-dope down the stretch and won an NBA championship, which was one of the last years that Bill Russell played. I think he was the coach that year also. Yeah. And now the Celtics are 41-40, one game remaining. Haven't looked too great lately, but there's no question that they haven't exactly been killing themselves out there either.
No. You know, they've been playing. Garnett hasn't been playing much. They've been letting him rest. Pierce hasn't played that much.
So it's so hard to make any kind of decision about what's going to happen in the playoffs because Celtics have just been coasting and presumably getting themselves physically and mentally ready to play the Knicks. Now, the Knicks obviously are led by Carmelo Anthony, terrific offensive player out of Syracuse. Another one of those Syracuse guys happy about his team showing in the postseason in the college ranks. And the word is that Amari Stoudemire is out for the series.
Well, they're better off without him. They really are. Is Chandler back?
I guess so. I haven't heard he's out.
You know, he's supposed to be back, so they're better off without Stoudemire. And, you know, Anthony can do his thing. And what's his name? Who's the other guy that's been scoring for them? Not Jones. They have another guy who's been playing good for them, too. They have
Reed?
They have Novak, too, who's been hitting. He hits a three-point shot. But it comes down to Anthony. If Anthony's on, if he's into the game, where Stollmeyer might take some of his, points away, his touches. He may not, when a player like Anthony doesn't handle the ball like he should, sometimes he'll drift away, and that's when New York can really start falling apart. And then he starts pressing, and that's when New York will have problems. But I think the Celtics, they'll put together a defense that'll control him.
Well, the good thing for the Celtics is that Paul Pierce pretty much is like Superman when he goes into Madison Square Garden. He's had so many big games there, and I think we probably both agree the key guy for the Celtics down the stretch is going to be Green. He's going to have to put up big numbers.
You know what's been aggravating me, though, is Bradley.
He's been
Bradley's been, ever since they said he was so great and he's getting all this publicity and everything, number one, stupid fouls because he's pressuring someone, he reaches in constantly, so then he has to back off because he gets in foul trouble. Number two, teams are leaving him wide open. They're trapping the Celtics. Celtics are swinging the ball. There he is wide open with a 12-footer, and he's missing them most of the time. And
makes you long for Rajon Rondo, right?
No, but I'm saying, he's not playing well. Him and Lee, Bradley and Lee are going to be the keys to the series. I'll tell you right now, because I like Lee better than Bradley. I think Lee's as quick as Bradley, and if they both have good series, they'll beat the Knicks.
Well, I think it's going to be really important to see what they get from Jason Terry, who's been up and down as far as his shooting, and Wilcox is going to be big as an ancillary rebounder. We know that Garnett's not going to be able to play as many minutes.
They'll all be keys. Crawford.
Yeah.
But
Crawford played pretty decently down the stretch. Nobody's saying he's the second coming of anybody, but he can shoot the ball, he can take the ball to the hoop. He's putting the effort in on defense. I really think that most of the young players like Rivers, and they really work to become successful under his system.
But it comes down to, are they going to grow up? Is Green going to grow up in this series? Is Bradley going to grow up in this series and play some, playoff basketball? Not wimpy basketball like they can play at times, especially Green. Green has this look on his face. Sometimes it aggravates the heck out of me. He's out there playing. He's like not in the game. It's like he'd rather be down at the playground playing with his friends than being on the court. And then all of a sudden you'll see him take the ball strong to the hoop at times and score. Then you don't see him again. I don't know if it's Garnett playing with Garnett. His biggest games have been without Garnett being there. I don't know if he's afraid of Garnett or what, if he backs off. But they need him to play big time. Well, and they didn't have that attitude, that look in his eyes.
Well, the difference between the great players and the very good players is that the great players bring it all the time. A guy like Jordan, he'd have a bad game now and then, but even for him, but it's the consistency factor that, the truly outstanding players, I don't care what level you're at, whether it's high school, college, professional, great players come to play every night.
And, and you want the players that are really fired up for the games. Getting back to me, when have you ever seen Green pump his fist? You ever see him really go after a player and slap five?
Well, he was a little excited when he got 43 against the Heat.
But when he got 43 against the Heat, it was like he was in a trance. You look at his face. It's not like he's excited about anything out there. Same thing with Bradley. Bradley misses a jump shot. He goes back moping. I want to see them both take it to the Knicks. Let's see if they grow up. That's what it's going to come down to. I know Lee will take it to him, and I think Lee is the most talented guy in that team right now. But he doesn't play as much as Bradley.
Right. Well, you're right that Bradley has maybe been reaching in a bit, and there's what can you do?
We'll see in the playoffs. Let's see how, you want to play your best basketball. Let's see if they both play their best. If they do, they're going to win.
Now, the coaching carousel is turning out of control. We know that Byron Scott, formerly of the Lakers, is out after 3 years in Cleveland. Lawrence Frank, who used to be an assistant with the Celtics and formerly a head coach at New Jersey, he's out after 2 years. And Doug Collins is out in Philadelphia.
He quit, though.
Yeah, I think Collins probably...
He told him he was leaving.
Yeah, he's going to still have a job with the organization. And Collins is a really intense guy. I first met Doug Collins when I was 19 years old, coaching at Sam Jones summer camp down in Easton. And I had to go pick up Collins at the airport. And Collins was talking about one of the tough problems he had was he didn't have big hands. So he couldn't palm the ball. He kind of cupped the ball with his hand against, he had a flexible wrist against his arm. That's how he could kind of move it around. But interesting guy.
Great shooter.
And Isn't his kid coaching somewhere?
This kid coaches at Duke.
Yeah, Duke.
Played at Duke.
And the word is that what's his name? Mike Brown, formerly of the Lakers, who got fired, is going to go back to coach the Cavs. That's not final, but we'll see. And the Lakers sneaked into the playoffs, made the 7 spot, but they only have one little problem to deal with. They have no Kobe Bryant, who blew out his Achilles.
Hey, sometimes teams play that well. The Celtics did there for a while without Rondo until they started getting the injuries. But it's really funny how a team can really start collapsing a little once one little, like Garnett gets hurt. And you start seeing the Celtics. That's not a little injury. But then you start seeing the players not playing as well because they're not as confident. Confidence is the number one thing in sports. You have to be confident. And if you don't feel like you can win every game, then you're in a big-time problem.
Which takes me into my next topic of, really what makes an outstanding coach. And I think that a lot of things go into it, but I won't say the most important thing first. I'll say that I think one of your big jobs coaching is to teach players about the game. Even players who are professionals don't know as much about the game oftentimes as the coaches do, which is why the great assistant coaches like Kevin Eastman on the Celtics are at a premium. The Celtics, the reason they have such success defensively in stopping transition baskets is because Eastman really that's one of his big focuses. And you might say, well, why do people spend so much time just on transition? And U.B. Brown, Hall of Fame coach, has talked about as many as 70% of points at some levels of basketball are scored in transition. And if you think about every team you watch, and I don't care what level you're at, if you're not scoring anything in transition, you're going to have trouble scoring a lot of points.
Right. Oh, that's the whole thing. I mean, the pro ball, like you said, I believe some high school kids know more about the game than the pro players. A lot of them make it on talent.
Right.
I mean, the best way to compare it is Bledsoe and Brady. Bledsoe made it because he could throw the ball further than anyone else, tall, strong. Brady became a better quarterback than him because he learned the game the right way. He studied it, came up the right way. Took him a little longer, but once he got in there and got a chance, he became a better quarterback than Bledsoe because he understood the game better. Bledsoe made it really excel through his talents, where Brady learned the game, and you see that in high school. But I know you want to keep going about the pros, but we've got the best program in all sports. The best program in all the sports, the UConn girls basketball team, by far. Anyone who loves sports, I mean, I watch the UConn girls play every time they're on TV. I've seen every game that's been on TV.
Here's what Tony Maserati had to say.
I heard that. I heard that show. He's an idiot.
He basically said, just because UConn set the record for most consecutive wins doesn't really mean anything because there's not any good teams and women's sports just not as good as men's sports.
Him and Felger are the two dumbest people I've ever heard. That's why I don't listen to them. If I'm turning a channel, I don't like something on EEI. Basically, I listen to EEI more than them. But they don't know. I heard that show. I said, they're making these comments and they've never watched the UConn girls team play. They didn't watch UConn lose to Notre Dame this year 3 times during the season in the tournament. UConn and Notre Dame, who had a tremendous team this year, they didn't watch how UConn kept working, and Brianna Stewart, a freshman, became the top player in the country, other than Griner and Del Don. Del Don for Delaware and Griner for Baylor were the 2 top players. But I'd say Stewart's the 3rd best player as a freshman, and at the end of the year, she was the best player in the country. Auriemma is just an unbelievable coach. He puts everything together. But Kelly Farris, who was the senior, the key senior in the team, who plays all-around basketball. Kids, I tell our girls all the time, watch UConn play as much as you can. The best basketball player, men's or girls basketball player, understanding the game, she's the best. Kelly Farris, she just does everything well. The best defensive player.
I think she was the first pick of the Connecticut Sun in the
she was
WNBA draft.
She was the 11th pick.
For what it's worth, the number 1 pick, not surprisingly, was Brittany Griner.
I think Del Don's going to be better.
Well, I do too. I like Del Don's total game better than Griner's. Griner
6'8".
Griner made news today as, she decided to announce that she was gay, which that's probably not really big news, women's college basketball. That's kind of a common phenomenon. But anyway, be that as it may, for fans who really love basketball, women's college basketball is the best basketball you're going to see, period.
Best in any sport. I mean, watching women's college basketball is definitely better than it, to me. By
Right.
far better than the NBA, by far than men's basketball.
Well, they have great fundamentals. They have a lot of great coaches.
But the
you know,
only thing I don't like about them, and I get sick every time I hear it, they talk about how Griner can stuff the ball. It's a big thing.
Well,
She's 6'8". I mean, forget about it's great. Talk about the other stuff. Talk about Del Don's moves in the low post or away from the basket hitting the three.
Well, Griner's got good footwork. You know, to give her her due.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nice that she's 6'8", but she's not a stiff.
Oh, yeah, don't talk about her stuffs, her defense, and the way
Right.
triple teams.
And you wouldn't. But when Mark Cuban says he was going to consider drafting her in the NBA,
That's stupid.
That's silly talk, because there's no way that she can compete against men
They're
who
too
are her
physical.
right, who
and
are
they're quicker.
yeah. It's just silly. Okay, could she have played on some men's Division I team as a backup player? You know, a backup small forward or something? Maybe. I don't know.
But that's not even the case. Cuban's saying something stupid like that anyway. You know, you're not comparing the girls to the boys. You're comparing what you enjoy watching. And no one executes the game better than the college girls do. I mean, there's a number of teams. It's not just UConn and Notre Dame anymore, or Stanford. And, you know, now you have Baylor. You have, well, Maryland and Duke. You know, North Carolina, those teams in the ACC. And you see UConn handling those real good teams. Kentucky. You know, teams like Kentucky that are very good. Teams, Pittsburgh, Penn State, they had a good program.
Well, there's a lot of excellent teams on the women's side.
But when you watch UConn, the way they handle those teams and the way they improved so much to beat Notre Dame convincingly in the semifinals, the way they put that team together, Auriemma, and the way they executed the game, no, I've never seen a team execute a game like that.
The one issue I would say is that some programs are able to attract so many top players that the recruiting differential is so big. UConn has 9 McDonald's high school All-Americans, and no matter, you know, if you had to say one thing, what makes a great coach? If I could have anything I wanted to be a great coach, I'd say I want great players.
Yeah, but like next year, know what's funny about next year? Notre Dame has 4 McDonald All-Americans coming in. Duke has 3. UConn has none.
Well, that's because they have so many already.
Well, but no, they have no one really happy for. I don't know who. Hartley, the point guard. The one, well, she plays the 2 now. She had a sprained ankle. The first 2 months, she really suffered. Came back. She couldn't get her timing down. Really struggled. The last 2 games, the Final 4, she played unbelievable. So as a UConn fan, I look at the team coming back next year. You have Hartley at the 2. You have this girl Jefferson. She's a freshman this year, small little kid. She is the quickest player I've ever seen, female player. She's going to be the point guard. Had a tremendous Final 4. And then you got Mosqueda Lewis. She'll play the 3 next year. The best shooter in the country, over 50% from 3-point. And then you have Stewart and you have Dolson coming back at center. And then you also have the.
Seems like Dolson's been there forever.
I know Dolson's got another year. And but I'm just excited because they're going to win it again. They have to be the favorite next year. Griner's gone. You know,
Right.
Notre Dame's losing their 2 of their top players. And but again, Notre Dame's getting 4 of the top players in the country coming in.
But the most important factor in not teaching and being a successful coach is communication, because you have to be able to reach the players, to have the players know how much you care about them, not only as a basketball player, but a person. You know, in the NBA, it's kind of easy. If you're Doc Rivers, you don't go to Jordan Crawford and say, well, you know, I'm going to teach you this because it's going to make you a better player. I'm going to say, I'm going to make you a better player so you can make $10 million a year. And if, you know, these kids, they want to become great players.
Yeah, and you see our girls that we coach. Every game's a big game. They know every game's a big game. No matter who they're playing, every game's a big game. And when you have a group that gets along so well and respects each other and respects the game of basketball or whatever sport they're playing, and they want to reach that level of play that not many teams can reach, I mean, once you get to that level, well, you know the feeling.
Well, when you can communicate with your players and get them to play hard, play together, play really
And love
smart
the game.
basketball, then it's hard not to be successful. And at the end of the day, it's a game, and players have to enjoy playing, and they have to enjoy the game, and they have to enjoy being around each other. I like to say you can't work basketball, you have to play basketball. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.